In this segment, we're going to talk about why it's important when you go into a relationship that you're not thinking you're going to change somebody. Because have you tried to change yourself? It's hard. I like chocolate. It's hard.
She really likes chocolate.
So it's like when you think that you're going to be in a relationship with somebody and you go, well, close enough and I'll make them change. And that is such a huge mistake. And we see it over and over again, done it ourselves. You just think, oh, well, a lot of the parts, they're pretty good. It's just a couple of few things and then I'll change them. We have a friend of ours, she hung in there in a relationship for 2 years, and he was getting what he pretty much needed. The problem they had is that she's an extrovert and he's an introvert. And she likes to talk. She's visual, so she likes to talk a lot, and she's very funny and entertaining and charming. And he's introverted, and he's more of like, yeah, grunt, 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 yeah, okay, fine. And didn't really want to do any sharing because that's just who he is. We've actually had 2 people we know that had that relationship. And I think that they're attracted to the salt of the earth type thing, like a real stable man. He's a good guy, both good guys, stable. It's just that if you have these certain needs that you need to be heard, seen, and matter, and that person doesn't have the ability to do that kind of feedback for you, then that is not a good match for you. And you can go into that because sometimes, like, maybe that's how your father was. Your father was like, grunt, groan, doesn't really converse. And so you marry your dad instead of marrying somebody who's really a great partner for you, somebody who can understand you. You can yak back and forth. They get you. They ask you questions. They care about what you're doing with your day. And that's why it's really important to look at that in a long-term relationship and go, can I do this for the rest of my life?
Right. There's a difference between playing the short game of just dating, hooking up, starting a relationship, but not really asking really serious questions about, do our natures align?
Right.
That's the biggest fundamental problem that a lot of people have is they're not really discerning whether their natures are going to match. The other thing is other parts of compatibility about how they communicate, how they process information can be very, very different. But yet it's attractive in the beginning, but it becomes the divorce court irritant as you get in through the relationship. And normally what happens, you go into a power struggle. After the romance cycle, you go into a power cycle and you think, oh, if I could just change this other person to be more compatible with me, and you're not accepting of them, and you really have a lot of conflict because of that. But deciding that, oh, I'm going to change them, I'm going to tell them what they need to change, well, no one wants to hear that. And that's why most relationships don't make it. 50% of the relationships don't make it because a lot of people haven't taken a hard look at compatibility or had very deep discussions about how they're going to communicate, things they're going to do together or not. Like for instance, you may be extroverted and they're introverted. So you want to be the social butterfly out around all the time, but they just want to be home. Well, that's going to create conflict unless you're okay with that. Unless you have friends or family, you can have those portions of the relationship with, but don't expect that other person to change.
They're not going to be a social butterfly.
They're not going to do that.
It's
just not their nature. Yeah. It's uncomfortable.
And we know couples that have actually negotiated that.
Yeah.
They've negotiated way before they ever even got married. They just go, okay. He goes, yeah, go do your thing. Go travel with your girlfriends. I don't care. It's fine. And then he just does his thing, and it's perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so it can be male or female. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if you're an introverted person, don't expect that other person that's extroverted that's going to just come sit with you all the time, read books, do the things that you want to do that are important to you and feel natural. That's going to be very uncomfortable for them in the future. So everybody wants to keep all these different factors in line. That's one of the things that we go through in our coaching program and in our seminars, that You really want to start identifying the different type of markers or identifying the types of different compatibilities that you should be looking at
Yes.
to be able to hook up with a partner that's going to create a lot less conflict that you're going to have to negotiate once you get in that power struggle phase, which every couple
You do. You're going to have
goes
conflict.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to be able to get through that, get into that stability phase, and then move from there into the other phases of relationship.
And some of the worst things, even though like 50% of the population gets divorced, what's worse, and I saw it with my former in-laws, is that they live parallel lives.
Oh, it's
They
terrible.
just give up. They give up. He
Yeah.
goes his way, she goes her way. They live parallel lives. They kind of like pass in the hall and go, ugh.
Yeah, they don't really like each other,
They
and
don't
they don't.
like each other.
Yeah, they don't value each other. They don't want to. They
Yeah.
don't want to speak. But for many reasons, they just stay together, and
stay
that's really
together.
sad. That's
is.
very sad.
Yeah.
Now, there's ways around that through different ways of communicating that you can have healthier relationships. And we would never want anybody to be living parallel lives just because they have poor communication skills. But sometimes you're just so incompatible,
Yeah.
but you get so invested, it makes it really hard to leave, even though you might think it's the right thing to do. Just depends.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these are some of the things you want to think about. Super, super important when you're coming together with somebody. Have some really good conversations about how you live, how you see things, and
know that you're going to have to love them just exactly the way they are.
right.
Because nobody's changing, including you. Except for when you learn all of our tools, and that helps you.
Yeah, then you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah.
And it's going to actually help build these relationships that you want to have in the future. So hope that helps, and we'll be talking to you soon.